Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the LCS Report. I'm Rob. He's Nick, and we start off with our favorite question of the day. Nick, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm doing good. Excited to get into this last weekend of regular season LCS action, and we're going to be able to actually play in on the stage again. so
Which is, yeah,
I think it'll be a good finish to the split. I'm excited.
yeah. I mean, should we maybe talk about that for a second as well?
Sure.
Because I will be honest with you, I don't mind the LCS being on another stage. And I love that they tried to do their best with the cage match thing. Like, they turned it into something, right? And I think that I will never criticize them for making the best of their situation. What I do wish is that they wouldn't hide behind what that decision was, right? Like, and what I mean by that is, to me, I put out a tweet. I don't know if you saw it, but like, I was like, so are we just pretending that they're on this stage and that it's a cage match, even though like this isn't great, basically, right? And a couple people were like, yeah, pretty much, right? Like, one thing I really want the LCS to be better about, and it's not that they have to be transparent about everything, but like when they try to hide it behind, we're doing a cage match this week, not we got pushed off the main stage, so we're going to make the best of a bad situation. Like, I just feel like that's being disingenuous, and that they're like,
Yeah.
that we're like too stupid to figure it out on our own. You know what I mean? Or I don't say that
Yeah.
they think that we're dumb, but you know what I mean? Like, oh, we just hope
No,
that they won't
no, you're
notice.
right.
And it's like, just
No.
say it. Like, I want Mark to come out and be like, listen, guys, things aren't great. We understand that. We're going to make it better. And there are going to be times where we're going to be pushed off and everything. Like, I feel like the esports community, while there are a ton of trolls, there's also a lot of sympathy. There's a lot of empathy in this, like, demographic, right?
For
Very
sure.
understanding people. And I feel like the more they try to hide about how bad things are, the worse it's going to get, right? So like, I didn't even go to Reddit yet to see like what people were saying about it. I'm sure it was a plentiful bounty of just complete crap, but like my my thought process is like, just come out and say like, hey guys, we got pushed off the main stage, but we're going to try to make it really cool and we're going to do a cage match. And what they should have done is
Right.
actually had the players be ready to like, not like they had to script out everything, but be like, hey, like, come with your best trash talk. When they had like JoJo and
Yeah.
Inspired going at it, dude, I was sitting there like,
Beautiful.
I love that you guys are friends and everything, but I was actually hoping for more personally. I didn't think it was very good. They just were like, yeah, no, I respect him. Like, I respect this. I'm like, JoJo, just tell him. Your guys are good friends. He's not going to get mad at you because he's going to know it's an act. Like, if they're going to try to treat it like WWE, it could be a little fake. That's the whole point of
Yeah.
WWE. You know what I
Well,
mean?
I didn't mind the JoJo inspired interactions because it felt kind of facetious. Like I felt like what they were saying in all chat during the game was definitely oh yeah, I respect it. It was probably like fuck you, you know.
Yeah.
But I agree. I agree with what you're saying completely. I mean, I didn't even really mind the cage match. I didn't even mind, like you said, like the situation's understandable. I didn't mind that they were shunted off. Valorant has 5.5 times the average viewership of the LCS
Yeah.
right now.
Just say
And
it.
it was their finals. It also was their finals weekend, right? Like, I mean, it's a big deal. What I didn't like is they're like, two great esports, one big weekend. It's like, okay, shut up. This is one great esport in North America, and then the one that you put in the Shadow Realm. Okay, that's what
Yeah, for
happened
real.
here.
Like, let's not forget that the
Like,
NCT wouldn't even exist if the LCS hadn't, laid the path. Like, let's not pretend that that's not the case. And it's like, I know that you have to, I know as a business owner, you have to go towards the thing that's going to make you money. But at the same time,
sure,
like, League of Legends is not going anywhere. There's no game, there's no esport outside of, I guess, CS that has truly stood the test of time like League of Legends has, right? Like, Halo had its time, it's never really recovered. You could argue maybe Call of Duty is kind of surviving more, but I don't know. Its viewership was not really the LCS, at least the last few years. I can't remember. I haven't looked in a while. Obviously, Overwatch came around. That never pushed away, League fans. Like, League is still there. And, like, let's be honest, 100,000 people is still really good for an esport right now. There's a bajillion things to watch. That's not that
yeah,
bad. And as we talked about last week, like, winning cures all. Interesting products cure all. So, like, if they need to go onto that other stage and scale back for a little while, do it, man. Like it's got to stop being short-term
Hmm.
solutions. They've got to start finding long-term solutions to stuff and playing for the long-term game, because the game of League of Legends is not going anywhere. It hit a new peak during COVID, and I don't think it's lost too many people.
Yeah,
Especially with things like, with games like TFT and even Legends of Runeterra coming out. Like, I know Legend of Runeterra hasn't done very well, obviously, but like TFT has like tripled their team or something like that over the last 2 years. Like, it's a game that, like, League of Legends, it's a cultural thing. I mean, shit, even
yeah.
Arcane has
The
become
IP
a
is not going
cultural thing. Yeah,
anywhere.
it's
Yeah,
not going
yeah,
anywhere, and
yeah, yeah.
even more so than Valorant. Like, people like to watch Valorant, sure, but like, does a normal person know who Jinx is? You have a higher chance of that than them knowing who Jet is, right? Like, that's
For
just
sure.
that's just a
I,
true statement right now. And so,
yeah,
and they're not
yeah,
changing
definitely.
that. When Arcane comes out, I've known, I bet you 40% of my friend group who doesn't play League of Legends watched Arcane.
Hmm.
They just did. It's
Yeah,
a great show.
for sure.
And like, that's the kind of thing that could keep League going. So it's like, I don't know. I we won't dive too deep into it. Nick and I, if you missed it last week, especially I feel like myself, I went on a true tirade last week. I've come to realize I'm not actually apologizing for any of it. I went back and rewatched it.
You shouldn't.
I feel the way that I feel, and I will gladly go to bat for players, broadcasters, or any of the above to get this product back where it needs to be. But um, yeah, I did not love that. I didn't love that we were pretending that it was gonna be this big cage match. Like, great. Do it on a weekend when you're supposed to have the main stage. Then we
Right,
could talk.
yeah. I think yeah, it was like I think there were so many different factors of circumstance because you have like people who don't understand like this makes sense economically for Riot. And then you have people who've been around for a while, like you and I, maybe I understand, but let's not pretend like Riot couldn't have done, I think, a better job growing League of Legends esports in North America
Yeah.
5, 6 years ago, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
there's that level of frustration. Then you get to the fact that like esports fans are informed. They're very, 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 very keen and attuned to bullshit. And
Yep.
just like the way that it was, like you said, just like just be honest about it and we'll make it fun. But then you also have the issue is the kind of ironic part is that like this works when the LCS doesn't have the player personalities to do this. Doublelift doesn't play anymore. Like when they had Bwipo and Sniper, that was awesome. When it was JoJo inspired, I liked it, but I think it's because that's like I'm like I know what these guys are actually saying. That didn't actually make it a
Yes.
good segment. That just means like and I think the LCS does this a lot right now, where they are making a product that is good for like the insiders, but like not necessarily always executing on a level that like can make it like people were able to read between the lines here. And I think, like I thought was really surprised that Zazel said in his post game interview.
I
I'm
didn't
not sure
see
if
it
you
actually.
thought.
No, I did
So
not.
he said he said, well, this is it hit the front page of Reddit. He's like, well, this is definitely my first competitive win in a storage closet, but I guess you take whatever wins you can get when you're not a Valorant player. That's verbatim
Let's
what he said.
go, Zazel. I
Yeah.
love that.
So I think I'd be interested in hearing his perspective on it because economics aside, if there's like LCS players feel like they haven't gotten a fair shake, or maybe he's just talking shit because he's playing in a tiny little room. Because if you recall back in the best of 3 days, we had an actual second stage. It was
Yes, we did.
smaller and it only seated about like 95 people, I
I
think.
remember
So like
that.
only about 25-30% of the LCS main room, but when we had best of threes, it was nice. It was kind of intimate. Like there was these black curtains and everything, and it was an actual sound stage. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
so, um, I obviously that's not what's happening now. So I think it was like they were like we can avoid that by branding this as a cage match, but they didn't do a lot. Flowers gave me a WWE intro, but the players clearly weren't like vibing with it
Yeah, I
very
mean,
much.
did
They
you
didn't seem
see
like they were super
Insanity's
into it.
face when they like got up on him
Yeah,
after that?
I was
I
about to
was
say
like, "Oh
specifically
boy."
Insanity looked like he wasn't buying in, and and
Well, he's on that
when
same
players do buy
team,
in,
so
like like
maybe none
like
of them
guys like
do.
yeah, but like guys like Bwipo who are dripping, but yeah, maybe the guys on Shopify are like this man, like I don't know. I'd be interested to talk to Zazel about that this weekend. We'll see if I can,
Hopefully you do.
but yeah, I mean, I didn't. The funny thing is, like, if you guys have just been more open about the decision, it's fine. Valorant is growing so fast in North America. Like, it's the viewership numbers back it up. I've been in the arena for both sports. Like, it's it's different. It's
Well,
just different, unfortunately.
shooters have
And
always been more popular in North America. That has always
yeah,
been the
yeah,
case.
yeah,
So it makes
yeah.
sense that it's popular, and that's okay. It's just like I just want the LCS to accept where it's at, like
Just be honest. Yeah.
openly accept. I'm sure they have behind the scenes, and I know they're working
Yes.
on stuff, and that's great. I've heard, that the behind the scenes stuff is, still up in the air, right? Like I will be interested to see if they actually decide to go to best of threes next split. I am
Ain't no
really
way.
hoping. I'm
Ain't
hoping.
no way.
I'm
I
hoping.
mean, I hope I go tonight and ask Santa for best of threes every night. Hasn't happened yet. So we'll see.
Well, maybe you should go to the North Pole to visit him because we need that. I mean, like if they're because like you said that like you want them to. Oh, what did you say? It was something like not worry about, or want them to more worry about the casual fan. I don't want them to do that right now. I want them to do that when the product as a whole is better. I don't mind them bringing back, Afremu and like really hitting home because like those are the people who are still
That was
watching.
fun.
Well,
I'm not
yeah,
saying don't do those things. I'm not saying don't
no,
do
no,
those
I know
things.
you're
I'm
not. What
just
I'm
saying
saying
like
is I'm pushing back more on the like cuz that's why they don't do best of 3s, dude. That is literally why. Because they think that the casual person is not going to watch as much and they're probably right. But like I'm sorry, who cares at this point? You got to put something out there that's actually worth watching. This is not worth watching sometimes. To be honest with you, as much as I enjoy it and I watch everything, like no, I feel like we're going down a hole again, but I'm gonna limit us to we have 3 more minutes to talk about this, and then we gotta move on.
okay.
And I won't take it all. All I'm gonna say is that
No,
like
you're good.
I'm not seeing. I feel like there are some teams that would be in very different positions right now if we were in best of threes because I think that they might actually just be better. Like one team that I think after watching especially this weekend is Shopify. I think
Yep,
best of
absolutely.
threes would probably benefit them as much as probably any team in the LCS right now. Whereas I think 100 Thieves would struggle the most in best of threes right now, mostly because they're just younger. And it's like, and they, don't have as much
Yeah.
experience, blah, 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 right?
Yeah, yeah.
I just want to see them, like, just do it. Like, if they see a 50% decline in viewership, whatever. I mean, 2023 was horrible. Horrible. And they stuck by weekday, and I tried to defend it, but like they stuck by the
The
weekdays. They stuck by that for a full year. Like, give us best of threes. If you could do that for a full year and be like, well, I guess we lost some viewership doing that shit, like, then why the hell can't you just do best of threes? Just do it, man. Like, I don't know. It just confuses me. And I mean,
well,
if they
that's
abuse the
kind
storage
of
closet,
the
then
whole
do
thing,
it.
right?
Yes,
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the whole thing, right? Is that like there's these arguments and discussions for best of threes and what the pros and cons. My whole point last week was no, we're doing best of threes and then we talk about it.
yep.
Like I don't think that should not be a cuttable thing. You know what I mean? Like it's being viewed as like a bell and whistle as opposed to like a staple of a ideal competitive format. And are we creating an entertainment? I know it has to be entertainment. Or are we creating a competitive product or entertainment product? Because that's actually like another issue, right?
Well,
Is
what's
like
the
we need the
point of having an
viewership,
entertainment
and
product? Like, what's the point if you're gonna have a world championship that you have to go to and embarrass yourself?
I think, yeah, exactly. And I do think that there's like, North America having growing pains. We're definitely more focused on streamers in terms of like our fans and culture and stuff like that, compared to like, obviously the Eastern regions are way more into the Eastern competition, but I think also the regional pride aspects of how Europe is set up and how good EMEA Masters is as
Yep.
a sort of a feeder league, right? There the competition seems to matter more. I think all of that is also that these teams have had good international results before, and we've had it like one time. So that's a factor. But yeah, like you said, I think it's I don't know. I like you said, I didn't even mind. I didn't mind. I was one of the people who wasn't upset about like them not being on stage. I'm like, hey, we don't fill this place out every day. It's fine. It's some best of ones. Like it doesn't matter. Like I didn't have a problem with it at all. and then they tried to make it like two big esports. It's like, no, there's one that's, I mean, come on, like, let's just be honest about it. It's fine. It's
Call a
where we
spade a
are.
spade. Like that's the whole
League
reason for the
is league
phrase.
is still bigger globally.
Yep.
This is not, like it's not, it's, I don't know. I just like, let's just be honest about it, whatever, but anyway, that's kind of like how I feel about it. And maybe like certain sports fans or demographics, but like esports fans are they sniff that bullshit out right away. They're like, fuck you, putting like Demon One next to Blabber or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, they are. And it's like there's like two big things. Like, no, it's like that's not what this is about. And I feel like they should have just been honest about it. It's like, hey, look, we got two esports here. One sells out every day and it's their final weekend. The other one's in week 5. I'm like, yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
that could have been fine.
Yeah. And I mean,
But
you're gonna get
yeah.
roasted on Reddit either way, so you might as well just accept it.
Yeah, and screw those guys. They don't know how business works. Like, I'm sorry, Reddit. You don't know anything, you know?
That's true.
Um,
It is true.
so yeah, I don't know. I mean, clearly the players weren't all into it, and you really need the players to be into it. That's why I'm glad that Bweepo and Sniper brought the right energy, but they would have they bring that energy regardless of what room they're in.
That's
So
just
it
who
wasn't
they
like
are.
it was facilitated by the cage match branding. If they had gone more crazy and more camp with it, like I wanted like a player after their win, like to come out in like a luchador mask or something like that,
Something
like in the
fun.
next game randomly or
Yes.
something like that, like really. But it is what it is. I'm excited to get back in the arena for week 6. Also, I will, just a little plug, if y'all missed the Valorant finals, they were
They
fantastic.
were very good.
Very, very, very entertaining. Very, very great series, and yeah, really, really fun time. But yeah, I'm excited to get us back in the studio. I think it's going to be. I mean, we have such a competitive. If you look at the standings, it's so competitive here. Like I don't know if we've ever had I don't know the last time we had a margin so small between our first place team and our last place team. Like, and I know part of that is less games and less teams, but it's not just that either.
No, it's been interesting to see, and we're gonna get into that here in just a second too. Or well, I guess we'll do it now as well. I'll play off of that. I'm proud of us, by the way. We only went 2 minutes over my initial time for that, so we're great. I just want to say, um, snaps for us. So, all right, as our normal Tuesday show starts now, I guess. Standings after week 5, we got FlyQuest at 8-3, 100 Thieves at 7-4. Tied for third, NRG and Cloud9. Tied for fifth, Dignitas and Team Liquid, both at 5-6. And then seventh is Shopify at 4-7. And eighth, Immortals, after a rough weekend for them. This was a pretty good week for you and I in terms of our picks, especially compared to the week before. I got to put our picks for next episode away right now, but I'll bring this over. You went 5-3 this week. I had an awesome week. I went 7-1. I'm feeling really good about myself right now. I'm going to be honest. I'm feeling it. But we both got over that 50% mark, which I think is important. Honestly, that means if we were betting on this on a consistent basis, that we would have made money at this point. So
Yeah.
we'll see if we can continue that into week 6, and then we'll probably do obviously we'll do our predictions for playoffs as well, which I know I'm personally very excited about. But yeah, this is kind of how things have played out so far. Week 4 was just abysmal for both of us. As a quick reminder, much better for you than me. Those 2 extra wins were quite important. But yeah, I mean, I guess we'll go back here and talk about like what games stood out to you the most. I'll go first really quickly because I need to steal the one that I enjoyed the most here. It was the Cloud9 FlyQuest game. Everything that I thought was going to happen last week basically did. Cloud9 reminded me of what I thought that they were in week 1. They had that break. They came back. Like what I saw the most out of them this week, especially Nick, was the willingness to sacrifice individual advantages to win like a team fight. And the prime example I have is actually on that first blood where Blabber like leaves the grubs, I think it is, and he's playing on Nidalee. He comes up and they're able to get the kill on, with Fudge on the Renekton, right? And there were different times when JoJo was leaving lane. Like I know he won player of the week and everything. I really felt like this was more of a team effort, to be honest with you. Like, I know he played very well, but it really did feel like they were playing as a team. They were sacrificing different individual advantages and getting themselves ahead. And it didn't require, I think, unlike their previous run that they had, and something that you had pointed out, it didn't require somebody necessarily to go off. It just felt like the team went off. Like, they were just making plays around the map at the right times. It felt like they were playing FlyQuest's game better than FlyQuest was playing it, right? Like, just in terms of
Hmm.
a methodical, well thought out strategy. Like, sure, there are times where FlyQuest will, take a weird skirmish and everything. I know that's what Inspired and Whippo specifically are known for, but I just felt like C9 attacked FlyQuest at all of their weak points. Um, and it just felt to me that they had, pretty much full control of this game. And, I mean, they took the lead at 6 minutes and did not lose it for the rest of the game.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right. And, and,
Um,
and I think that that's important. Basically, as soon as the first blood happened, that was it. That was game over after that. And it wasn't like a dominating win in the sense of like a 30-1 game or something like that. Right. I mean, it was just a methodically, we're taking objectives. We're putting ourselves in good positions on the map. We're putting
yeah.
ourselves in good positions in fights. It was really impressive, honestly. Like, it felt like the C9 that I was hoping for.
It was very efficient. I think we've seen
Yes, that's a
Cloud9
great
win
way
a
to
lot
put
of
it.
games early on in spring that they just like rolled over people. Like JoJo's 4-0 and Tristana at
Yes.
15 minutes, the game's over. Or they lose, right? It's nice to see them kind of play more of a mid tempo, clinically paced game. I
Mhm.
agree with you there. I was actually going to talk about this game too, by the way, for different reasons than
Well,
you
no,
though.
go
So
then. Dive into it.
yeah. So one thing before, not to take anything away from Cloud9, because I have a lot of good things to say about Cloud9.
Sure.
I will say I don't know what the hell. I mean, I do know what the hell. I think it's fine, but the FlyQuest loss is what a draft to me. I don't think Nidalee Renekton was expected, and that's fine. I don't fault them for that. It's a pretty. I mean, we haven't seen Nidalee in forever, even with
Yes.
Blabber, right? Like, but I don't. Jensen is not a Karma player. He's never been a Karma player. And Busio for this, I know a lot of people were flaming Busio. Are like, dude, he's not carry. I stopped. I'm like, okay, for the record, like Busio has played one. He's a former mid lane mate. He can play ranged and like unconventional supports better than the average support. His marksman supports have been good in the past, so I'm glad they tried it while they had some cushion at first place.
Sure.
But ultimately, I don't see this team succeeding on an elite level when your champion for Busio does more than your damage than your champion for Jensen. It's just not and
Yeah.
it's just not a winning formula. Put the utility somewhere else. I'd rather have Buipo and Karma than Jensen.
Yeah.
Not that I don't think it works for him. And so we kind of ran into this thing where like they didn't really have like. Wait, this was the Karma game, right? Am I
Yeah,
getting
no,
my
you're
games mixed
absolutely
up?
right. Yeah, that's why I've been
Okay,
correcting you.
okay. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you
I'm
were
sorry.
spot on.
I'm sorry. Okay, cool. Thank you. I don't have the match history in front of me, but so that was a factor. But I do agree with you with everything else. I do think it was nice to see C9 do well. I just think that I was disappointed a little bit with FlyQuest, and if I had known that they were going to be really kind of trying to cook and draft this week, it would have changed my prediction. That being said, Cloud9, like you said, did play well, and I think that while it was a team effort, I think we're seeing something about this team, which is that the mid jungle, if it doesn't work, everything falls apart. Doesn't matter how good Berserker is. Fudge has been relatively non-impactful, I would say, this split. So I don't really have a lot to say about him right now. But this is not like Berserker is. I mean, I think he's fine, but this team identity needs JoJo and Blabber to succeed
Yeah, but I think
right
that's what they
now.
brought him
And
in for, right? Like,
yeah, whereas what I mean is like C9 won a lot of games last year with MNS ending the game with like 5 deaths. This team can't do that. This team, I mean, Berserker's still a late game insurance, but this team does really need to play more through mid, at least right now. So while I do think it was a team effort, I think it was because of the fact that Blabber and JoJo were on the same page. And when they're not, this team falls apart. Mid jungle is so much more important for this team than last year's roster. It's very important in general, but especially I think for how this team is going to be. And that's what we saw this weekend from them.
well, and I think that that's just the way that, because I was checking to make sure before I said this, like, that's the way the bot lane is, right? I mean, look at it right now. You have Senna, you have Varus, Smolder, another Senna game here. You have even a Seraphine game, right? More Smolder.
Chris.
You have an Ezreal game. You had one game with more like, I would say, heavily carry focused champions with like a Lucian and a Kaisa getting picked. So like I think the scaling, I think the later game insurance is kind of the way the AD carry position is going right now, right? I mean, when you
Sure.
have Senna, Smolder, and Ezreal, that's just the way it goes. Like, not that they
Yeah.
can't fight early on. I mean, we saw, I think, a lot of dives this weekend with specifically like the Nautilus Senna combo, but that's just
Yeah.
the way it
But
is. And like, and I think
yeah.
that what you point out is right. Jensen then goes back on the Oriana and just pops the hell off, right? So it's just like, I think that the way that the game is being played, especially right now, and the way the meta is kind of focused, is that you have to have good mid jungle synergy, right? If you don't, you can hope that your AD carry is going to do enough in a team fight, but it kind of feels like there's a lot of shields to get through. There's a lot of front line to get through, and you're playing champions that take a while to kind of get there, right? I I don't know. I think you're spot on. Is what I guess I'm saying. Is that it's gonna have to be JoJo and Blabber, and that's okay. That's how I think that the meta is fitted right now, and I think that that's how this team is meant to be. And that's not a
Yeah.
knock on Berserker or Vulcan or even Fudge, even though I know everybody like thinks that Fudge is a weak link, and he still I think played really well this weekend, honestly. If you ask me, but I just think that this is a good team overall, and I think that if JoJo and Blabber can continue to be on the same page, they can be damn near unbeatable. But if they're not, and you disrupt that too much, then you're just gonna have to hope, like you said, that Berserker scales enough to then just truly carry a game. Because the one thing I will say is, it felt like the Smolder damage, at least in some of these team fights, was not as impactful as I thought it was going to be. Um, I don't know. Like, maybe I'm missing something here, but it just felt like he wasn't really able to. It felt like I saw a lot more Smolders running away from the fights because they were getting chased than actually being able to get in and do what they do.
Hmm.
So I personally like playing Smolder. I think he's a really fun champion. Honestly, I know a lot of people hate him, but
He's
um,
broken.
he is broken,
I
especially in
love
solo
him,
queue.
by the way.
But
So
yeah, I
yeah, I'm
mean,
not gonna push back
Berserker
on
is
that.
the only one who won on him this weekend. No, that's not true.
I think
Tomo won
yeah.
on him once too,
No. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was gonna
but
say
I think he went two and
Tomo
three. But yeah,
Tomo is our OG LCS
Smolder.
Smolder player.
Yeah,
He's our Smolder boy. Yeah, I mean, I think that like that's the other thing too, right? Is like I don't think we've seen a meta in LCS this year that really uh plays towards Berserker's strengths, like what makes him better. Like he's fine on Senna, but like the difference between a good Senna and a great Senna is less than like the difference between a good Ezreal and a great Ezreal, right? Or that kind of thing.
yeah,
And Ezreal you can play right now, but it's not like I guess what I'm saying is like, whereas last year when like if Blabber and Eminence weren't on the same page, I was confident that like through side lanes they could win the game. This team reminds me so far a bit more of the Perks lineup, where when Perks and Blabber were on the same page, everything went well. But if they weren't, no amount of how good Sven, Vulcan, or Fudge played in that period of time would matter. I think we've seen that a little bit. Part of its meta, where I don't think Berserker can take over team fights in the same way on these kind of picks. It's just not the way the game's going right now. I
yeah.
mean, we're having in LPL, we're having our Sennas go top lane for a while, right? Like this is not like AD carry is a strong role, but not in the way it's traditionally been.
Well, we don't have like
It's
Zeri moments. Like, these champions don't really have the ability to have a Zeri moment where they can just full on.
right.
I think maybe Smolder can, depending on how everything's set up. But even then, I mean, it just takes him so
But
long
that's
to like
because of
pour
his
out damage.
casting damage. That's not
Yes,
about like
exactly.
him going god mode, like crazy mechanics. That's like,
Yes,
oh, he hit his abilities from far away and he has 400 stacks, so he one shot them,
exactly.
right? Like these aren't skill flex, like skill intensive AD carries.
Hmm.
Um, but maybe that's a blessing in disguise while Berserker and Vulcan continue to build up their synergy. I just think like right now, anytime this team plays well, JoJo and Blabber are doing the thing. I know that Fudge had a good reacting game, but that's kind of par for the course. And when you're setting up Nidalee, I mean, Nidalee had the harder job there. No, I think Fudge is a great player. I just don't. I think he's been pretty quiet this spring, and
He's been
I think
quiet
we're
for a while, and that's okay
and I
though.
think we're maybe starting to see though that that's more about a team identity thing necessarily than if he's playing well individually
That's
or not.
exactly what I was gonna say.
Um, so yeah, I just think this team's like really like we're not seeing the same play like the same level of side lane like carrying, and that could just be meta related right now. It's hard to say. I need to review the Cloud9 games too, but once again, but Yeah, I think that that was the game that I wanted to talk about too, because I think it just shows us a lot about Cloud9. It also shows us that, like, on one hand, it was annoying to see FlyQuest go 0-2, I'm sure, for their fans, but also, like, they're in first. I think they
They
were
went
due for some,
1-1.
like, what did I say?
You said 0-2. They
You're
beat
right.
100 Thieves in the second game.
Yeah, sorry, math is
That's
hard.
okay.
But like, I think it's like, hey, it's Cloud9. Maybe they're shaking me or not. Let's they need this one more than us. Let's try something. With the Ash support and the Karma. It
Well, and
didn't
they
work
brought it
out.
back
So
out too. They brought. I was gonna say. I think the next game we should
the,
talk about is
the
that FlyQuest brought back out that Ash support, and Busio had him on
that's
his
what I
team.
mean too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's good on this pick. He
Yes.
is, but I don't think we put Jensen on Karma. I don't. I think we, like in, I don't think that's too much weirdness for this team to execute on right now in that kind of way. I think is just like Jensen in general, like Lulu, Karma, those have never been picks for him.
Yeah.
Control Mage is fine, but like, like in the way, in the places where like Faker or Bjergsen have been good Lulu and Karma players, Jensen never really had that full utility gear, I feel like, in the same way.
Yeah. He's not pulling out
So
Gazillion
yeah.
as often.
Yeah. He did have some good Zillion
I
games
was
in his
gonna.
career
That's why
though.
I said as
But
often. I wanted to be clear. I know he
that's
can
often.
play it.
No, 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 yeah. But yeah, yeah, but yeah, you're exactly right. So yeah, I think it's good that FlyQuest is willing to they don't want to flame out. It's good for them to experiment. But it told us a lot about Cloud9. I think that game did,
Yeah.
specifically,
I
and
think the whole week did.
yeah,
I was very happy with their second game too. Honestly, I mean, TL fans are probably on fire currently, but um, I guess that'll probably be a conversation we have here probably to end the day. But I do want to go into FlyQuest. They bounce back.
yes,
They win in that next game. They're able to do it, I think, on multiple, good picks. I like the Bwipo Olaf. I think it is a very strong pick for this team in particular, obviously.
hmm
He's very good at it. I obviously
hmm
love the pairing with Sejuani as well. And then it felt like, the rest of the team could kind of kite, do what they need to do while the other two are just kind of running in and creating chaos, right? And
yeah,
that sounds like what we want, right? Like we literally, I think we've talked about multiple weeks. We talked about during the FlyQuest episode. I said at the beginning of this episode, Bwipo and Inspired create just enough chaos, controlled chaos, to make this team good. That allows for Jensen, Masu, and Busio to kind of play back and play their style as well. It's a really interesting mix up, honestly. And if FlyQuest weren't 0-2, and I think that they've honestly played Cloud9 at the worst times, to be honest with you, like I don't think that it's a foregone conclusion that if we get to playoffs, that FlyQuest or that Cloud9 are going to sweep FlyQuest, to be honest with you. If they end up playing each other, I could very easily see it being, just I guess depending on the round, being a 1 game difference. To be honest with you, just
who
because
wins if they play today in a best of five? Who wins?
Cloud9.
3-2.
I think so. Yeah, if it's a best of 5,
Okay.
then yeah, I think so. And I could go into that, but I don't think we have time for that
I
yet.
just,
But
I just
know
wanted
it's
to
a
put
good
you on the
question.
spot for a sec,
No, it's a good
because I
question.
was thinking, I'm like, I think C9 might 3-1 right now. I think that they
I
might
think it'd be
be
a
building
3-2,
some
dude. I really
momentum.
do. I
Uh,
think that I think FlyQuest learn very quickly. I think that the same thing happened to them at the beginning of the split. Um, I just think that they're a good team. And I think that I don't know if they are a championship team. And it's no insult to the bot lane, but I do think it's the bot lane that will hold them back from being a championship team right now. Not because of their actual abilities, but because of experience, right? I think that we'll have to see. But I mean, I'm encouraged seeing them try new things. I'm encouraged seeing them, go out. And they had 2 really big games this week. Like we talked about it last week. I mean, starting the week off with Cloud 900 Thieves, it's tough. That is not easy whatsoever. So I really enjoyed what I saw out of them. Um, their way to rebound, I think, was really important. Do you got anything else before we hop into what we're going to be talking about next week?
no, I agree completely.
Okay, good. Now, I will say, obviously, we have a super week coming up. What is most interesting to me at the moment, if I can find this, where you at? Sorry, give me 1 second. Is I want to quickly talk about some of the matchups for our playoff teams. We will dive into this deeper into the Thursday episode, but I do want to talk real quickly about the fact that some teams have it much easier than others. Cloud9 in particular has it much easier. Now, we're going to save our predictions for where we think everybody's going to finish and everything like that. I think Thursday's episode is going to be a lot longer because I do want to dive into that. But Cloud9 have Dignitas, Immortals, and Shopify Rebellion. For comparison, FlyQuest still have TL, NRG, and Dig. And then NRG have Shopify, FlyQuest, 100 Thieves. And then, let me see who I still have. Okay, and then 100 Thieves have Immortals, Shopify, and then their toughest game against NRG. It feels like C9 have played through the harder part of their schedule up to this point. And, they're facing 3 of the 4 bottom teams right now in the LCS. I'm very interested to see, do you think, and again, we'll dive into the reasoning on Thursday, but I did want to ask you, do you think that there's a chance that Cloud9 can actually 3-0 this and finish as the first seed?
Yeah.
Yeah, because FlyQuest have
I would.
schedule.
I'll go out on a limb and say that I think it's the most likely outcome.
Wow.
Wow.
Even
I think
with
that
a 2-game lead for FlyQuest. Okay. All right, we're diving into this for a few minutes because I'm intrigued.
Well, to be fair, what I think will happen is FlyQuest is a 2-game lead. I think that one way or another, we may have a first seed tiebreaker by the end of this.
Okay, I could see that.
In which I would favor Cloud9 in that situation over FlyQuest. I could also see Cloud9 not giving a damn about the first seed and picking main mid again to see how it goes. Right? Like, I don't know. I don't think they're going to miss playoffs. They're
confident that they're going to. I mean, they're literally only 2 games up on Shopify.
Yeah,
I mean, their 2-0 this week was the biggest one for them in NRG. They had to have it this week.
Yeah, that's their hardest schedule. Like, I don't know. I could see that. Like, I could see them going 2-1 because they'd rather try something new before playoffs instead of really caring about going 3-0. That's all I meant. For that last week.
I like that.
But I would say that just because of FlyQuest's strength of schedule, I do think we'll see an uptick from NRG also. I wouldn't be surprised if NRG had a really strong. I think I actually have NRG maybe going undefeated in the final week. But
that's impressive. I think I might as well.
I think these are players who these guys always ramp up before playoffs. Especially guys like FBI and Hui really get into a different gear. And I think we'll see that. But yeah, I think it's likely. I think it's likely that C9, unless like I said, I expect FlyQuest to maybe drop one of those games. Like I still think they'll be finishing towards the top of the standings. I don't think they're falling off. I just think this is best of ones we're talking about here. Like which are they regressing? It's like, well, it's 2 games out of 12. I don't know. Like it's I think that it's likely that C9 will be in a top 2 spot and very, very much likely, just given their strike schedule and with the form they showed last week. I mean, I think they could go 3-0 and do it. Yeah.
Can Shopify ruin Cloud9's run to first? That's going to be the question of the week, I think. But
well, they're the blue shell team, so it's possible.
Dude, it is so crazy to me, and I honestly hope that they do sneak into playoffs because I could see this team creating some serious havoc.
Yeah,
if they do.
My hot take is. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go. I was done.
We were talking about how teams could be placed differently, best of 3, right? My hot take is that if we were in best of 3, Shopify would be ahead of Team Liquid in the standings.
I don't think that's a hot take because I would say the same thing. I actually think this is my hot take. I actually think Shopify, if B-Boy had started the season with the team, would have a chance at a top 4 in a best of 3, and if B-Boy had been there from the start.
B-Boy's been awesome for them.
He's been very fun to watch, honestly.
He's been really good.
That team is, I think... All right, last thing we're going to talk about this week, because I forgot I was going to bring this up to you. We have talked about it ad nauseum about Licorice. I am sorry, Fake God, but I'm telling you, with Licorice on that Shopify team, I think that they are terrifying. I think that they are a team that can absolutely surprise everybody. Zeyzal had an insanely good weekend, by the way. He was potentially...
He's had a good split.
I think he's ramped up. He didn't play as well at the beginning, but obviously he's had 2 different ADCs. But, like, I'm just going to say that, like, I was watching those games, and I was like, wow, Zeyzal. Like, damn, dude, you are out here. So I don't know. Like Zazel might be my favorite player in the LCS after, at least for this currently week. After
Big
what he
fan.
said, I've always liked him as
Big fan.
well, but I'm glad he's getting a chance. And I know we're talking a lot right now about a 4-7 team. I get it, but
They're
like
so much fun to
they
watch,
are a
and they're the
fun
best.
team. Yeah,
They're the best last placed LCS team in the history of the LCS.
second to last, sir. Don't
Oh, I'm
forget,
sorry. Wait.
Immortals are sitting down there at 3-8, and
Oh yeah, I
they
should.
do
I knew
have.
it could depend on Immortals.
Let's be honest, they have a way. There's a path for them. The three teams that they still have left to play, they are 2-1 against currently.
Mm.
They beat C9 and NRG last time around. So I don't know if they're gonna do that necessarily, but like there's a real world where Team Liquid go 0-3 and Shopify go 1-2 and they squeak their way in on a tiebreaker. So I'm just saying, guys, like Nick and I have talked about this extensively, even offline. Like Shopify, I think, are a much better team than people realize. And I genuinely think if over the offseason they go and get Licorice, I will just full on predict right now that they're a top 4 team in the LCS next split. I'm just literally ready to do that. I'm sorry. I think Insanity Boogie, dude, Boogie has been probably the biggest surprise for me in the LCS in the last 5 years. Like I was so just baffled by his signing and just really struggled with him in that first split with TSM. And since then, he has just absolutely blown away my expectations. Like he plays really well. I think it just took him time to really find a team that gave him a chance. Like, I mean, he's not going to be like, a top 3 jungler right now or anything, but he's exciting. He's interesting. I just like that team. It's not just because they're the old TSM. Like I barely even talked about them on this show, so I don't want to hear that shit from any of you. It's just
Yeah, I
because
mean,
they're actually a fun team.
yeah, I mean, Boogie is the kind of player who thrives in unorthodox creative choices,
Yep.
and he needs a team who's willing to not just tolerate that, but enable it. You see, I know that they're not doing it as much now, but early on they would put Boogie on a lot of carries because
Mm-hmm.
Insanity was comfortable playing mid lane picks. Now there's this whole debate on, well, not debate, but I know from speaking to Zazel earlier in the year that they want earlier a couple weeks ago that they want to try to focus more on conventional mid lane picks. Insanity saying he's like, I don't want to be the pocket pick guy. Like you kind of are though, but he wants to be able to play the conventional stuff too, which I think he can. But I mean,
I mean,
he's
is he the
you know,
best Clay in the league right now? He might be. He
I
played
don't understand enough
outstandingly
about that
well on
champion
mid.
to answer. I don't understand that champion enough to give you an answer, but his performance seemed good.
I mean,
I don't under,
let's be honest. He went 15 or 16, 5, and 9 on this champion. 16,
pretty
5, and
good.
9. That's pretty good. I'm just gonna be honest with
Yeah,
you. They
and that's a pretty
probably
good.
should have
That's
won
a
that
pretty
DPT
conventional
game.
mid laner too. Quay, not exactly. That's pretty meta right now.
Yeah, that's a pocket pick. I don't know. Just
No,
saying. I will
yeah.
fight. I will die on the Insanity Hill. I will.
Oh yeah, big fan.
Huge fan.
Yeah. No, he's good. He's good stuff. I do hope I really do think Shopify would be interesting in playoffs. I do hope they squeak in because I think
I
that
do
we'll see
too.
some. I think that if they go out in the first round, it'd be the most fun loss in the whole tournament. Like I think
Honestly.
they'll do a good combination of like they have fun picks. They also have players who I think historically have come up clutch in big moments.
Mm-hmm.
I think like Zazel is one of those guys. B Boy, whenever his Misfits team sneaked into playoffs, his team fighting was really good, as it has been, I think, for the majority of this spring. So yeah, no, like I said, they're my favorite last place team. I know they're not last place anymore, but I mean, like, does Immortals really even count? So
Damn. Oh,
I'm kidding.
Immortals.
I'm kidding. I just like, oh, Immortals in last place. You don't say. I'm sick of it.
Yeah. No,
Um,
and they're not like.
but
And to be fair to everybody else, like Shopify's not like. They're not a great team necessarily. I think that they still have a lot to work on. Like I was just looking now, like obviously Insanity's damage stats are hurt by playing tanks in the mid lane, but even this past week, like he was still like middle of the pack for it. But they are willing to, I think, take risks that other teams aren't, and I think they're willing to play well, and they're just a good team. Like, you always have those teams. Like, there are a ton of LCK teams that I remember that people will tell me about, and I'll go watch some of their games or just kind of like casually, watch the highlights, and I'm like, yeah, they may not win the LCK, they may not even make playoffs, but damn, they're fun.
That's what I think.
I
That's
think
why
the
we hammer
biggest
this point home
teams,
so hard,
yeah,
right? Yeah, like is that like teams don't have to be good to be entertaining, and and it's not like they're entertaining because they're not trying to be good. They are. It's just that like they're a brand, and I do think like I know they want to play more conventional, but like I do think that the road to victory, you do have to, I think, lean into your in domestic play to establish your identity. You have to lean into your strengths, lean into your quirks, and then you have to build off from that for international competition because that's not going to be enough to get you by. But you shouldn't shy away from those things either, right? Like so, like that's why I like them seeing the tank mids. I don't know if that's what's going to work for them going forward, but I do want to see. I hope we see some more interesting picks from them in that regard. In the same way that I'm glad that FlyQuest, even if they took the L to Cloud9, I'm glad they experimented this week. I'm glad they didn't just default to safety because they had to play C9, the second and third place teams, right? They're like, no, we're gonna put Busio on Ash, and we're gonna like have Jensen go on Karma, and then they're like, okay, that doesn't work. Busio can play Ash though. We learned something. We're gonna put Jensen on Oriana. It's gonna be fine. So, and then again, that's also again one of my biggest arguments for best of threes is it would give teams more of a chance to experiment with things. We'd find out more about the identity of these teams. But I could go back to that point. Pretty much anything I say about the LCS, I think, is like, and you know what? It's like, it's like what would solve this?
this would solve it.
Have you heard it talk? Have you do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior best of three format? You know what I mean?
You're not gonna hear an argument for me on that one. But we gotta get into our last
Someday.
thoughts here. Our last thoughts.
Yes.
My last thought is I want to see Ole on a different team next split. Sorry.
I mean, I think he's been individually pretty good.
I think
he's been the best player in Immortals. I think that he's done everything that he possibly can. And I hope. I don't know. I think that there's a few pieces of this Immortals team that I would get rid of pretty quickly if I was being cutthroat, and a few that I think would be worth keeping, and Ole's at the top of that list. But I don't know, man. That's what I mean. It's like I'm like, I don't know if these are all the best options available. Anyway,
I want to see. You know what? I'm calling it now. I want to see Ole on Dignitas. Sorry, Isles.
Again?
Yeah.
We did that already.
Yeah, but Tomo, dude. Tomo, by the way, is also a really interesting player. I'm just gonna say that too.
Tomo's good.
I like that Dignitas team too. I really actually like every team in the LCS except for Immortals is split.
Immortals is also, it sucks too because Immortals I think is fun to watch when they're playing well, like individual player. Like when Tactical is carrying, he's fun. I like watching Ole. I like watching Ole and Castle. I'm a big Castle fan. I think he's very good.
Interesting. He has been interesting.
I think he's very good. I think he's quietly like one of the stronger top players in the LCS, and no one's noticing because of where he's doing it. Yeah. So, but wow, your final thought was depressing. I'm gonna try to get a more optimistic one because I usually feel like I'm usually the one who brings the depressing thought in, and you say something more optimistic. So let me see.
Let's hear it.
Oh, this is gonna be tough. Optimism. Okay. I can do this. I can do this. I can think positively. I think that if Cloud9 go 3-0 this weekend, I am comfortable saying they will not drop a playoff series. They may drop a game, but I think that if they go 3-0, I think it's done and dusted, man. I think they're gonna that means they hit their stride at the right time, and everyone else is screwed.
You heard it here, folks.
I think it'd be very Cloud9 for us to come all the way back around to, well, of course they stomped everyone. They were going to win the whole time. Where you would see if you went into hibernation in week 1, you're like, all right, I'll see you at the end when Cloud9 dominates, everybody wins. You wake up, see, just as I predicted it. You missed the middle part where everything caught on fire. But it would be so Cloud9 for us to ultimately get back to the result we always expected. but first we had to just go through like 8 circles of hell to get back there. Like I could do, that'd be very, very
Most beach
this roster.
episodes in anime, that's what they went through. So it's cool. Everybody's got to go through their beach episode, right?
You gotta get the beach arc. Yeah. No, so I do think if like I think like that'll be like, oh, these guys are hitting their stride at the right time. They're not screwing around because I don't care what they say. I do think there's a especially for these players on C9, there's a spring split factor. Like, ain't no way they're taking these games 100% seriously. They're not.
They're trying
Like,
stuff. There's no doubt about
I
it.
think, and not even just that. I think like early on, I think that they were cruising. It was easy, and then it stopped being easy. And they're like, oh, we have to try again. C9's actually gonna have to plug in their keyboards, play the game. And I think that if we see more continuous ramping up, if we see a dominant, undefeated week 6, like I think it's over. I think maybe a team takes 1 or 2 games off, and I don't think they lose a series.
I hope so.
You know,
I want to. I'm sorry. I want entertaining games, but more than anything, I want to see us perform on the world stage at MSI and at Worlds. And I still believe with all my heart that C9 are our best chance of doing that. So they got to at least make it to finals. I don't care how they get there. Get your ass to finals. We'll figure out who's going to be that second team. I think we've got a pretty good idea. I think it's still between 2 teams, kind of how we thought it was going to be, but we'll have to see. I appreciate the positive thought because that's one that I felt, as you know, many weeks ago. But we are deep into it now. We are, I think, 13, almost 14 episodes into the show. So we're having a good time. We hope that you guys are too. If you love or hate our hot takes, please let us know in the comments section below. And with that, we'll catch you guys on the next one.